How is it going, everybody? This is Sean Barnes. I want to welcome you to episode 37 of The Way of the Wolf. On the show today, I'm going to be talking about addressing the issue. Now, I want to give a quick shout out to a gentleman named Andrew who wrote in the question and issues that he's dealing with. So I'm super excited to kind of dive into this for him. Before I do, I want to get a little bit of background information out to you guys. So Andrew graduated from college during the pandemic. He's about 23 years old and stepped into a leadership role managing about 45 employees. So first and foremost, congrats on being able to step right out of college into a leadership role like this. Though, as you might imagine, it does present some challenges. Being a leader of a district at such a young age, you have to step in, start leading a team, and maybe you don't have a lot of experience or knowledge in the area that all of these people are experts in. And second, coming from college, they don't really teach you a lot about leadership. They talk a lot about management, but not so much leadership. And those two are not one and the same. Now, on to the challenge at hand. So stepping in, leading about 45 employees, there are inevitably going to be a handful of bad apples. So he has a few employees that are causing unnecessary drama and tension and lost time due to having to deal with the issues that come up. Now, he goes on to admit that, this is to be expected, but it's been causing a lot of issues and was asking for a little bit of guidance on how to address it. So some initial thoughts. This is a great topic, and this isn't something that would be isolated to a young leader. This is something that all leaders have to deal with at some point in their career. So as you progress into more and more leadership, more and more of a senior leadership role in your career, your function shifts away from doing projects and working on things to dealing with people. And it takes a different skill set to be successful at leading people than it does to be successful at managing projects, for example. As I mentioned earlier, you are going to have troublemakers. As I talk through this process, I want to preface it by saying how important it is that you stay true to yourself. That's going to require an element of self-awareness, of knowing where your strengths and weaknesses are. More than likely, you're not going to be strong at having difficult or crucial conversations like this. But we're going to talk through it. We're going to work through it. I'm going to give you kind of a roadmap of how you can successfully navigate through these waters. One other thing on being true to yourself. I know I've talked on the show in the past about different approaches to leadership and solving problems. I have a tendency to kind of come in more like a scalpel, whereas Jason Hitchcock, who's been on the show before, he's a retired Navy SEAL Master Chief, he comes in like a sledgehammer. Now, our two approaches both work well. There's not a right or a wrong way to do it. However, his approach works better with certain types of employees and individuals and personality types, and mine works better with others. So it is important for you to have some sort of a sense and understanding of the people that you're going to be having the conversations with and how to effectively communicate with them. Some people need that sledgehammer approach just to kind of knock some sense into them, and others you have to kind of navigate their feelings and kind of work through the issue in a little bit of a softer manner. So first and foremost, you've probably already had this, but we're going to start talking through the initial conversation. You have to be able to sit the employee down, or the employees, you want to do this individually, open the conversation and just ask them, hey, what's happening? What's going on? I'm seeing these issues. I'm seeing these problems. Talk to me about it. You need to sit and intently listen and see if this is a problem that you can solve, or if it's a problem with the employee themselves. Talk through the issue. listen, be a leader, be understanding of the challenge that they're facing. Once they've had an opportunity to kind of talk through everything, maybe it's a problem you can fix for them, and then everything works and everyone's able to go on about their day and things turn out great. If it's not a problem that you can fix, you need to have the conversation and say, hey, look, I understand where you're coming from. I understand that this is frustrating. There's nothing we can do about it right now, but maybe we can address it in the future. In the meantime, I can't have you creating these issues and creating the drama. So is this something that you can kind of table, put off to the side, and work through on your own? So that shows that you care. You're having the conversation and trying to work with them on it. Now, if the issues continue, then it's time to sit them down for another conversation. Now, the second conversation can open with, hey, man, we talked about this. What's happening here? I thought we had worked through this. And they're probably still going to be a little bit frustrated and maybe hesitant to talk about it and open up. But at this point, you kind of make it clear, hey, like this isn't really going to be tolerated. This isn't something we can do as a team. We have to work through this. If you're not able to work through this, we'll start having conversations about progressive discipline and kind of talking through what the next steps are. So are we good? Is this something you can work through? So it's important that you share with them what those next steps might be. If it's a verbal warning or a written warning, whatever your progressive discipline process looks like at your company. And it may be a good idea to sit down with HR beforehand just to make sure that you understand what that process is. But it's important that you kind of let them know what the next steps are so that you're setting those expectations. Now, if they continue to be a problem child, now it's time to pull them in and start taking more serious action. You can open the conversation with, hey, man, we've gone over this a number of times, and I thought we had worked through it, but clearly not. So we're now at that point where I've got to give you a verbal warning. I don't want to do this. I want us to be able to work together. Unfortunately, this is where we're at. Usually when it comes to this, the employee is going to get pissed off. It's inevitable because they're probably going to feel blindsided. Maybe they're going to think like, oh, well, where is this coming from? Well, you already know that you've had a number of conversations with the employee about it. You've set the expectations. And if they are upset, you can refer back to your previous conversation and say, hey, last time we spoke about this, I told you what the next steps are going to be. Now, so that kind of, you're laying the framework, you're laying the foundation, you're following your process. If the issue continues, you may have to move on to termination. This is tough. This is really, really tough, especially if you've never had to terminate anybody. I have unfortunately had the experience of terminating, I can legitimately say, hundreds of employees in my career. I don't like it. It does get less difficult, especially if you've had numerous conversations with the employee and tried to do everything you can. But by this point, if you're having this conversation, there should be no surprises. You should have had 4 or 5 or more conversations with the employee at this point in time, setting those expectations and letting them know, hey, if you get to 3 write-ups, then it's termination. There's nothing I can do. So they should know about it. And it's important when you get to that point of termination that you know in your heart you've done absolutely everything you can to help this person out, to help them work through their challenges. At the end of the day, some people just aren't going to make it. And while that's very, very unfortunate, you've got a business to run. You have 44 other employees that you have to take care of and make sure that they are successful. So quick overview here. This approach, while very challenging and difficult, and I know I just kind of went down this path of progressive discipline, ultimately determination, was very intentional. It's important whenever you're in a leadership role that you make sure the entire team is successful. You are going to have those bad apples. You're going to have those toxic individuals. You've got to realize that cancer spreads. If you have those bad people in your organization, no, not bad people. If you have those bad apples in your team, the onus is on you as the leader to get them out to ensure that the rest of your team is successful and productive. When you do, productivity on the team will absolutely skyrocket. I can promise you that. People are going to start focusing on the work and making your business as fast as possible instead of sitting around and gossiping and dealing with the drama and dealing with the frustration. Once you get that toxic individual out, your team and the speed of your team is going to blow your mind. Again, this is not an easy process to go through, but it is crucial as a leader that you know how to step through this process and that you know how to have these types of conversations. One other thing that this does do is it shows to the rest of your team that you are a strong leader and that toxic behavior will not be tolerated on your team. That sets you and the rest of the team up for success because you're setting expectations and letting everybody know, hey, this is how this is going to pan out. We will not tolerate it. We have a strict no asshole policy here, and we stick to it. All right, Andrew, I want to take a moment again to thank you for sending in this topic. It's such a great topic. And again, it's not isolated to young leaders. This is something that all leaders encounter at some point in their career. It's not easy at all. If any of you listening are having similar issues or challenges or just kind of want to talk through what this might look like, please reach out to me. I am happy to have one-on-one conversations to kind of guide you through this process and share some of the things that have worked for me in the past. That's all I got, everybody. Y'all have a good one.